This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
This message is brought to you by Avocado Mattress.
When you're shopping for a mattress, you can spend hours reading reviews and scrolling through photos, but the only way to truly know if a mattress is right for you is to feel it for yourself. That's why Avocado invites you to come lie down. Every Avocado mattress is GOTS certified organic, assembled in our California facility with organic cotton, wool, and latex. No polyurethane foams, no fiberglass, certified made safe and EWG verified. It's a difference you can feel. So curl up, try any of our Avocado mattresses in person at an Avocado mattress store or 600 premier retail locations nationwide. Find out which of our 5 comfort levels is right for you, because buying a mattress shouldn't be a guessing game, and there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to better sleep. Find your comfort. Come lie down at Avocado. Shop the Labor Day sale now and get up to 20% off at avocadogreenmattress.com or select retailers nationwide. That's avocadogreenmattress.com to get up to 20% off. avocadogreenmattress.com.
On today's episode of The Bridge, a transformational health podcast with yours truly, Dr. Elizabeth Rogers, I am so excited and deeply honored to introduce to you my special guest, Jessi Coletti. I have so much that I want to say to you all about her because she is a truly extraordinary woman. Jessi was born and raised in Idaho. She went to school to study piano and graduated with a music degree. She's an amazing mom of 2 boys and the wife of a politician. Jessi can be found eating cheese, playing the piano, cooking something delicious, or enjoying quality time with her family. I can share as a personal testimonial as well that her positive outlook on life and laugh are truly contagious. Jessi always knew she was a creator in so many ways, but much like myself, she forgot for a while and spent many years believing she could not create since she struggled with fertility. She eventually learned to change her limiting beliefs through mindset work. She let go of some deep emotional baggage by doing the work. She has always loved natural health and entrepreneurship. She had a private piano studio for 15 years, has a thriving doTERRA business, has done Airbnb, and is a business and manifestation coach with Kathleen Cameron and the Diamond Academy. You are all in for such a special treat on today's episode. Jessi is going to vulnerably share her stories and wisdom with us. And she's going to talk a lot with us about the power of mindset and thinking in transforming our health and feeling whole and aligned, mind, body, and spirit. She's also going to talk about how we can fuel our health and well-being with love, compassion, and positivity versus hanging on to emotional baggage, negativity, and fear-based thoughts, stories, and thinking. She's also going to talk with us about the value of self-worth, self-love, and giving ourselves grace, and how when we take responsibility for turning inward and really examining our own limiting beliefs, that we can set ourselves free. Let's dive in. Welcome to The Bridge, the show that bridges the gap between Eastern and Western medicine, science and spirituality, physical and energetic health. If you're a leader seeking to heal from within, ultimately achieving the pinnacle of health and well-being for your mind, body, and spirit, then rest assured, this show is tailored just for you. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Rogers, the Sherlock Holmes of health. I'm a trailblazing Harvard-trained epidemiologist turned transformational health coach. Basically, I find the clues that every other healthcare practitioner missed because they were looking in the wrong place. I am so incredibly thrilled, honored, and excited to introduce to you all my dear friend and colleague, Jessi, who is here sharing her time, wisdom, and energy with us today. Jessi, thank you so much for coming on to the show today and for joining us and all of our amazing guests.
Oh, Elizabeth, what an honor. I am really tickled.
Jessi, the first question I'd love to ask you is, if there were, let's say, 10 keys to whole health and longevity, What would you tell us that one of them is? And of course, if you have more than one, then tell us.
I think one of the 10 would definitely be our thinking, our mindset, and our thought processes.
Can you share with us how you've come to find that as such an important key to feeling whole and healthy?
Number one, my mother is going through stage 3 lymphoma right now, and she's been studying a lot of natural health. We've always studied natural health. She raised me that way. So much credit to her. But there's nowadays, not when I was a child, but nowadays there's so many studies and so much science backing up natural medicine, which is so exciting. When I was a little girl, I always wished that the world of medicine and the world of natural could merge and work together.
Me too.
And I see it more and more happening, and it's coming, even though it's a process, it's coming more and more. Anyway, a lot of the studies that she's been reading say that how you think, what you think about your situation, the faith, the hope, the optimism, that's going to direct all of your actions. Of course, our thoughts direct our actions. We know that. But if you feel like I'm doomed, nothing's going to work, this is me for the rest of my life, and I'm stuck, then you will be.
Absolutely. Our thoughts and the stories that we decide to tell ourselves determine and create our reality. And what we experience in our reality related to our health and well-being is absolutely included. You know, first of all, thank you for sharing with us about your mom, because that's really important and it's so vulnerable and intimate to you. So thank you for just feeling safe sharing that with us and our guests. And I'd love to ask you a couple of things related to that, because you have this personal, intimate experience in your life right now, knowing and seeing and witnessing the value that our mindset and thinking really do have on our long-term health and well-being. First of all, you were raised, like you said, with this being taught to you as a very typical way of life, having more and more natural approach to health and well-being. And I think at the time that we were kids, it was even less common for parents to be raising us that way. I was raised on a very traditional, I always call it I was raised on the traditional American meat and potatoes and fast. How did you grow up with the story? What kinds of stories did you grow up telling yourself about health and well-being? Because like you've said, your mom really infused that as a value for you early on in life. And I've found that values, those beliefs, those stories, they so deeply influence our experience of health and well-being. And I'd just love if you could share with us a little bit about how that influenced you throughout your lifetime and the way that you are with your health and well-being today.
So I wouldn't have recognized this as, when you're in it, It's hard to recognize things, but I'm actually now a manifestation and mindset coach right now for business and life coach. But I recognize when my mind is in fear and doubt, and when I'm in a scarcity mentality, and I personally, I give God all the credit and I stay connected with him. I know how that's how you feel too, but when I have those fears and doubts, I feel like it's a heavy weight and my mind is clouded and I can't see clearly, but when you can release fear, doubt, or anger or resentment. I remember being at a health conference years ago, and a doctor said that he can trace so many of diseases back to someone being hurt and then holding on to resentment. And I was like, okay, I'll let go. Anyway, but so when I can let go of the fears and the doubts, I feel like it opens that channel to be one with God, with my creator, to get the inspiration that I need to know what the next step is, whether it's for my health or parenting or my business or maybe my relationship or my siblings. What's next? How can I? So anyway, looking back as a child, I think I had a lot of some fear and I wasn't very confident. I was pretty embarrassed about our natural stuff, how I would put salves on my feet and essential oils. And I remember my friends kind of laughing at me And I kept it really secret because I remember being in college and I got out some garlic bulbs because I had a little cold. And my roommate said, well, just take some NyQuil. And I said, what's that? I said, what is NyQuil? I didn't know what it was. I'd never taken it.
Wow.
Isn't that funny?
It's amazing.
It's wonderful. Yes, it's wonderful. But they would laugh at me and that's okay. I wasn't at a place back then that I had the confidence to be laughed at. Absolutely. Like now I can be. But I do remember probably 10 years ago starting to read more and more and having my own essential oil business and researching and finding out so many doctors and so many people. I think this movement, and one thing I love about you is it's this movement of we're demanding change because what we're doing, it's not serving everyone. No. It does a lot of good. Absolutely. I'm so grateful for medicine and everything that our medical community does, but
Amen.
There's just big gaps. And the more people that are demanding this movement, the faster it comes.
Exactly. You talked about staying connected to source, to God, whatever you all as listeners call it. I always say the God of your own understanding, right? Some people call it universe, source, God, spirit, creator, whatever you want to call it. I love that you value your connection the way that I do. And I think you know about me, and I have shared with our listeners, and will continue to talk about this, that I very intentionally live my life in alignment with my core values. And I actually keep a little card right here on my desk, and connection is on here because connection is one of my 3 highest values in life. And I very intentionally live my life every day in alignment with my highest values. So I love that you value connection in the way I do, where to me, it's not just about connection to a higher power, source, whatever you'd like to call it, but that also is our connection to ourselves. And I love that you shared something I reflect so often to my clients. When we are experiencing the fear, the doubt, any of the feelings and thoughts that come along with a negative connotation, just like stress, it quite literally creates disconnection within us. And then all of a sudden, it becomes so much more challenging to listen to that source, to listen to that connection, to stay aligned with it and confident in its voice, because all of a sudden, all that other stuff can become so noisy. And so I love that you share and value that connection. If I feel like I'm not in alignment and I'm disconnected on any given day, that will completely derail me for the day. I need to feel aligned with my connection. And for me, that's my connection to my source, to myself. And then it allows me to have the deep connection with you and the people I serve that I want and desire to have. That's so important to me. I'd love to ask you to talk to us a little bit about this. So it seems to me like you've really moved from a place of, like you used the word, you used to feel like a little embarrassed, about those kinds of things. Could you talk to us about this? Because, and making that shift from that place where you were feeling a little more like embarrassed and wanted to kind of hide that stuff about your life and the way you were raised to where I perceive you to be at now, which feels to me like you're very much now in a place of feeling aligned with that and feeling proud of it and feeling confident in it. Like I said, I wasn't raised in that way. And so I made that shift independently because I wanted to, and I learned and had some poor health experiences. But I bet that a lot of people out there can relate to this. And I also bet there are a lot of people listening. In fact, I know for a fact there are, who are kind of the opposite, where they're the ones in their family who really want to align their lives more with that value of health and well-being, but they're not necessarily in the rest of their surrounding family environment in a group of people who align with that the way that your family did. So, but I know that whichever direction you're going, there are a lot of people who would like to make this kind of a shift. Could you talk to us about how you did that?
I think it comes so much down to Well, so gonna go a couple different directions again.
Yeah.
But after, feeling embarrassed and not confident and then getting married, and he was raised with medicine and I was raised natural, and we did our own thing for a while, for a few years, and then had a baby. So then it was like, well, which one do we do? I want natural. He wants medicine.
Yeah.
And it created some, intense conversations at times when your child's really sick. Then I feel like a lot of times it did work and occasionally it didn't. And that's when I would go to medicine if my natural doesn't work. So grateful for the medicine.
Yes.
But I think my personal journey is I ended up having a few really dark years after that with fertility treatments. And so that kind of attacked not only my physical, but like my self-worth.
Yeah.
And whenever we're in grief or in that pain, we can't see clearly.
Yeah.
And so I started to hear this voice saying, well, you're not even good enough to have kids. Even I had one. I did have one biological, and now I have one adopted. So it ended up so good, and I'm so blessed. But I remember having that prominent thought that I wasn't good enough. And of course, that leaked out to every other area of my life. I was at the time teaching private piano. I had a big studio with like 30 students and always a waiting list because I'm a musician. But my confidence, like I always had that driving, like, but you're not good enough. So diving deep into personal development and my mindset helped me realize truth, help me to let go of those fears, to be aligned with my creator, realize that I am a creator. I am a creator in all things. My body can heal itself. I always thought, well, other people can create, but I can't create a life. So I would always tell people I wasn't creative, which is so funny.
Because you are so creative.
Well, now, like over a few years, I've become an artist and I sell my art in local shops, and I'm a musician, and now I've been published, and now I'm hired. I have 2 jobs going on right now where I'm being paid to write music. So this is someone who wasn't a creator. It's preposterous. So
it is.
Going back to just the self-worth, the self-love, giving myself grace, and not looking at my body every day and saying, oh, I'm so mad about you. You're not working the way I want you to. When the reality is there was probably 300 other parts that were working beautifully, but my perspective was the one spot in my body that wasn't working well. And I felt so much anger about that. So of course, then my health is going to get affected because I'm angry. So I had a few other health challenges, but that's probably why I say for me, one of the top 10 is how we think about ourselves, how we think about the hope, the faith. Do you really love who you are? Can you look in the mirror and be so grateful for this creation, this body that heals itself?
So for you, I think what I'm hearing is that you would say that the way you made this ultimate shift from feeling out of alignment with being raised the way you were and shown a more natural approach to really coming into full alignment with it and loving it was like you had to have your own personal experience and health challenges that really, I feel like, helped you find the truth within yourself of what creating health and well-being looked like for you. Does that sound accurate?
It does sound accurate. I definitely would give all the credit to the Lord, because true healing comes from, opening our hearts, being willing to not hold on to the anger. Like I was very angry at God.
Yeah.
Because I could see him granting everyone else children who didn't even want them. Anyway, so it was me. I think it was eventually getting low enough that I made a decision that it was heavier than I wanted to carry. I think actually the Lord really intervened in my life one day and just said, you have 2 roads that you can take. One of them you can be really angry, and one of them you can let go. Whether you ever get what you want or not, you have a choice of the life. Which one do you want to take? And I actually that day just said, I'm going to give it to you then. I don't want to carry this anger.
How did you let it go? Because I think that is so hard for so many people. And I think as women, especially, right, stress and trauma, nobody's a stranger to it. What's different is how it affects each of us. And that can be very different and can impact us in very drastic ways, both in an acute and long-term way. But I feel like by my observation in my personal practice, in just my own personal experience on my own health journey, it can be hard to let go, right? We can recognize, it can be easy. I think the recognition that we're carrying some stuff and that we don't want to hang on to anymore. I've noticed that the recognition of that can be a little easier, but then when it comes down to actually truly, really, really letting it go and releasing it so that we're not continuing to tell this story and perpetuate it into the future. I feel like that is very challenging for a lot of people. Can you talk to us about how you did that and how you were able to let go when you were given that choice at that crossroads?
Yeah, absolutely. I was mowing the lawn that day and I was hashing out in my mind how mad I was and how this person said this and this said that. And I'm so justified in being angry.
We do that
because I've been hurt.
Yeah.
So, and I think it felt better sometimes to be angry instead of just unworthy. So I think I chose anger sometimes. This is what I'm going to say is our thought processes are habits.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't a quick fix. I mean, it took quite a bit of time after that, but I did study a lot of personal development, and I have had multiple coaches, and they've helped me recognize, oh, this thought's coming in. That's right. That's from the old pattern. And it's just like you said, we create this story. So I started to create the new story of who I wanted to be. Whether I ever got what I wanted or not, what do I want my life to look like?
Yeah.
There's some things that are in my control and that are my choices. And yes, I did end up getting to adopt a beautiful baby 10 years, into this journey. And then I still had the angry times come up and I was like, wait a minute. I thought that once I got what I wanted, I would be healed.
Yeah.
But it was still a habit and a pattern and a story that crept up. So being able to eventually recognize when it was creeping up and then either write it all out, do it, pray, meditation, music, until I got to past the point, it was more seldom that would come up, the fertility. And still sometimes if I'm talking to someone who's in the middle of that struggle, I'll burst into tears and I'll cry with them because I remember that crazy, how painful that is, for anyone who's been through that, how every single month you grieve. But I do now recognize that I cry with them because it's love and compassion. And I don't feel that fire, like this volcano of how angry I was and how unfair it was. And it was gradual. It was doing the work, recognizing my thoughts, writing it out and doing those action steps so that I could create new habits, new thought patterns.
I think an important message that I hear you sharing with all of us is, first of all, the value of patience. I think that especially as women, when we're dealing with any kind of health setback, I don't think we necessarily always give ourselves the time and the grace to just process it in its due time. And everything we go through is going to require its own timeline that we move through to transition through it and grow through it and move beyond it. But I love that you shared that it was this gradual change for you. And something else that I want to highlight is that you also shared that it sounds to me, and please tell me if I'm reflecting this appropriately, my friend. Sure. It sounds to me like one thing you did that was extremely important in allowing you to continue to move through that process rather than at a certain point either stopping and standing still or regressing backwards is that you got intentional about doing the work. It sounds to me like when you recognized that some feelings were coming up that you did not want to continue to hang on to, I heard you saying things like, I would let it out, I would write it down. It sounds to me like you allowed yourself to have that awareness in the moment and to be vulnerable enough with yourself to then actually take action, which I think to me, I feel like is a nice gap that you're highlighting that a lot of us probably don't take, where we get into some hurtful, right? What do we tend to do? Like you said, it's easier for us. I wrote this down because I love this message. It's so much easier for us to blame and to project outward, right? My health, I could still do that with my near-death experience. It's not my fault. It's the surgeon's fault who almost killed me. This happened to me. I spent 10 years suffering after that because of them. It's their fault. This is horrible. It happened to me. Everything's happening to me. I'm a victim. It's so much easier to do that than it is to turn inward and think, okay, so I had a near-death experience, but who was the one putting all the unhealthy stuff into their body that created the kidney stones in the first place that almost took me out? I think that was me.
But it's just scary for people to say that sometimes. And
it is. And so I'd love for you to talk to us about this, because I feel like this is a really powerful moment you're highlighting, where if we can give ourselves grace and love ourselves enough in the moment to just lean in and say, all right, I feel some stuff coming up here. I think a lot of people tend to do is when we feel that stuff come up, we direct our attention elsewhere, or we busy ourselves with some sort of distraction, including caregiving or taking care of other people and their stuff, because then we don't have to pay attention to what is coming up here. But we're doing ourselves a disservice when we do that, because you and I both know when that stuff comes up, if we shove it back down, it's going to come back up in some other way.
I think part of it was during the time, as I reflect back, during the time I didn't realize I was grieving so much. And I thought that grief happened when you lose a loved one. And I hadn't lost anything, but I didn't realize that unrealized dreams or expectations can cause grief, and hoping every month for a treatment to work and then having it work.
Absolutely.
Is grief. And so what I used to do was I would be having a really down day, and I would, meaning well, I would count my blessings. And sometimes I would say, come on, Jessi, buck up. You're not like in slavery. You've got food in your house. Buck up. You're okay. But that would often kind of bring me lower because I was self-critical. So then I'm in like bed for a day. So when you're already feeling down, don't push yourself lower by saying, come on, get it together, buck up. You're fine. But later on, studying grief and realizing, I was actually going through grief. What do I do when I go visit a friend who's going through grief? I hug them. I love them. I listen. I pour love. So nowadays, when I'm having a bad day for any reason, I say, Jessi, what's going on? Maybe you need some music. How about a hot bath? Maybe you should take a rest. Have a little chocolate. Like I talk to myself like this, like a sweet little girl. Jessi is a little girl who needs the love, the care, and I nourish Jessi, which elevates me. And I journal a lot. In fact, I've learned over the years that even just writing down a page of random thoughts, letting it go, rip it up, burn it, is one of my best releases. Really?
Yeah. It feels good. For me, I feel like I oftentimes will burn the piece of paper I write on. Just seeing that energy transmute, and change forms helps me really feel like I'm seeing the physical process of me transforming that energy I don't want anymore into something else. I love that you brought up this unrealized dreams can cause us grief, because I think, like you're getting at, we don't always give ourselves permission to just feel and experience the grief. We are energy and frequency. And because of that, we are living in several different dimensions at the same time. So we're having the 3-dimensional physical experience that you and I can see, feel, touch, smell, taste, and hear. But we're also non-physical beings. And so we do also exist in a non-physical form. And to me, we have to honor the both and. You and I are not just people that believe you should just go all natural and holistic. We're not just people that believe you should stay married to our mainstream system, which, as we have highlighted, for as sophisticated and extraordinary as it is, I would not be here today without it, has a lot of gaps that we need to continue to work to fill so that our system can improve. But I'd love for you to talk to me for a little bit about that topic, is the both and. So you exist in a relationship with someone who came from the more medical side of things, and you came from the more natural side of things. And of course, that impacts how we parent, how we couple, how we create our lifestyles in our families and in our relationships. How did you and your partner come to this place where you can coexist in those worlds in a healthy way, and that neither of you seemed to be standing with both feet on one side of the road saying, I'm not willing to come over there and see what's on the other side?
So yeah, it took many years. It took time. And I'm this way too, but he's very independent. He's strong. He's so compassionate, but he's also open. He's open to new ideas. He's open to growth and moving forward. So I remember learning more about natural health and actually having my business, starting my business, and he didn't really want to try anything, and I would keep suggesting it and he still didn't want to try it. So eventually I just let go. You can say I gave it to God.
Yeah.
And then I would just make sure for myself, like, oh, I'll be right there. My knees bothering me. I'm going to rub some salve on it real quick, or I'm going to use an essential oil real quick, or my allergies. Hold on a second. I've got to grab something for my allergies. So I just made it part of my life and used it in my life. And then it was sitting out. Different solutions would be sitting out, and he would start using them. And eventually he started coming to me and saying, the Claritin didn't work, or what can I take that won't make me drowsy? Mm-hmm. So especially with spouses or family members, we need to let them come on their own time.
Yeah.
When they're ready. And if he still wanted to do medicine, I would support him. Again, it comes to when you feel aligned and at peace in your heart and you love who you are, you don't feel threatened by someone else making different decisions, or like he can be him and I can be me, and we can both elevate together and we can follow our inspiration.
I feel like you are just aligned with me, and that we feel like what's best is to align with the truth within you and learn to trust that. And I think that can be really challenging when right now we're kind of on information overload. You could, without even going to see any doctor or specialist or hiring any type of coach or healer, you could find a lot of different types of conflicting information online, on Google, on just doing your own research, going down your own rabbit holes. And I think to me, it's just always about coming back to the truth within yourself, right? Because I could find you a research study that tells you alcohol is good for you. And I could also find you one that tells you it's bad for you. And I could, as a researcher, highlight for you all of the biases, inherent biases and faults and things about those two studies that made them less than perfect. But the truth is, you have to do what's best for you and learn how to find that truth. And I think that is so important and valuable. Is there anything you'd like to share? I know a lot of the people listening to this podcast are parents who have lost children, our parents who have miscarried, our parents who have undergone months and years of fertility treatments and tried a lot of different things to be able to find what parenthood is going to be for them. And it sounds like you both as a couple navigated that in a really healthy way. Is there anything you can share with us or that you feel comfortable sharing to all the parents out there, maybe to anyone who's navigating those kinds of challenges right now in their own life?
Just trust yourself and love yourself. Make sure you're highlighting 300 things you love about yourself or that you did well that day, not the 2 things. But when you're both at a place where you're happy with yourselves, like he's done a lot of personal growth as well, and he's confident in his decisions. I'm confident in mine. And sometimes we don't agree at all, but we have a respect and a love, and we support each other in what each other feels is best. And just be so kind to yourself whenever you have a choice. Treat yourself like you would treat a child or your friend. especially if you're going through something hard, be so kind and don't bring yourself down further by self-criticism.
I think that's one of my favorite messages. That's a big takeaway for me from this interview is that when we do that, we push ourselves lower, right? We have to allow ourselves, we're these beings experiencing a lot of different types of frequencies and energies just because we live on planet Earth. So I think giving ourselves the grace, like you're saying, to just experience those different frequencies and experiences without necessarily making ourselves shove down even farther and sink down even lower in our own frequency, simply because we're experiencing something that can be really uncomfortable for us. And I'd love to ask you, Jessi, you have talked about the importance of loving ourselves and being kind to ourselves. For me, loving myself was not, I know it wasn't one of the first things that I did on my journey. In fact, it was probably one of the final steps, because I would make progress and then I'd plateau, and then I'd figure out the next piece of the puzzle, make some more progress, and then I'd plateau. And my journey kind of looked like that. And then there were some zigzags and spirals, and there was a lot of zigzagging. I used to actually call myself a zigzagger, and I would beat myself up over that and be very hard on myself. So I have a feeling you've probably read it, but the book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. It's an incredible book. You can read it in literally an hour. It's about the author. He's writing the book about himself and his journey to basically learn that the best thing you could do for yourself is love yourself, like quite literally, like your life depends on it. And reading that book for me was a big game changer, because I'm a reader. So it was always on my list. I had the book. I'd owned it for a few years, finally picked it up at the divine right time. And as I was reading it, I bawled my eyes out, because I realized that it was a mirror for me and a reflection for something that was really missing. Can you talk to us and share, how can we love ourselves if we're somebody that recognizes that that's a missing link for us, or if it feels hard to do?
Yeah, well, I think they can start by reading that book for sure.
Yeah, it is a great book. Honestly, I'd recommend it to anybody.
I really like You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. The
favorites.
Is a really amazing one. I think that anyone listening, if they've started to recognize within themselves as they're listening, feeling a nudge or a prompting that, oh, maybe I could examine this. Yeah. I think becoming aware that you could give a little more love and grace to yourself. You're the only person you're ever going to live with your entire life. Can you be happy with you, not dependent on anyone else, an outside circumstance, another person, the government, your income? Can you be happy with you regardless of anything else out or external?
Having that awareness is one of the most important steps you can make before you can make a transformation. You have to have that awareness. So like you're saying, if you have that today and that's all you have, that is huge. One of the last lingering questions I still have on my mind right now, you've said a few times for us too, you've suggested, that we focus on the 300 things that our body does right, rather than the 2 things that our body's not doing, that we're not happy with right now. And you've had to really learn to embody that lesson. How did you create the healthy habit, or behavior of consistently coming back to focusing on all of the positive, rather than those 2 or 3 things that we want to change? Because that, I often say to my clients, you are where your attention is. And that's where what we tend to more easily do, right, is go to fixating on the thing that we want to do better, that we want to be better, that we want to be different, that we want to feel different.
Yeah. So what you focus on grows. It's the same thing. And I think it probably started with self-love at first. I used to go to bed and I would really beat myself up for the 2, like, I messed up here. Yeah. I forgot this appointment. I failed in PTO, yelled at my kid. So I would focus on those things and really just rehash it.
Yeah.
once again, there's probably 300 things I did during the day that were really positive and really good. So I tried to consciously go to sleep, fall asleep, thinking about all of the great things. And who is it? Neville Goddard, I think, that says rewrite your day.
Yeah, it is. I love that.
And then I eventually said, oh, well, I could apply this to my body as well. All the things that I love about my body. And when we're focused on that gratitude, we're at a higher vibration and frequency. And then naturally, I make better food choices when I'm in a gratitude. I decide to work out and I drink more water.
Yeah.
Because I'm so happy and I want to nourish this body that is miraculous and wonderful and working on so many levels.
To me, everything you just shared is also circling us back to that really important lesson and takeaway that you've shared, I think, in so many different beautiful ways, which is that when we focus on what's negative or we focus on what's wrong with us, we're just shoving our energy and frequency down even lower and making our energy even heavier, therefore making it even harder for us to get back on track. Someone said to me earlier today in an interview that it's much easier to keep a train on the tracks than it is to put a train back on the tracks once it's been derailed. And I love that. And I feel like you're teaching, I feel like you are just aligning with that same metaphor and lesson, which is that it's easier if we just keep coming back to the positive and to the good, because when we are in gratitude, then we are at a different frequency and it's easier for us to take care of ourselves, to feel excited and motivated to do those things, to want to feel aligned mind, body, and spirit. But when we're focusing on the other stuff and the negative, it's much easier to eat the crap, to not get off the couch, to feel sorry for ourselves and to stay stuck in that heavier, denser energy. To those of you who maybe like to see some evidence that what we're talking about matters, then I would encourage you to go Google the double slit experiment. You can find a really awesome little YouTube video by a little physicist cartoon character who will talk about the double slit experiment in non-scientist terms. But basically, the double slit experiment was run by a bunch of physicists. What they simply did was observe different wave patterns and energies as they moved and simply watched the way the wave patterns fell based on whether they were observing the experiment or whether they were not. We know that based on energy and physics and the principles and laws that govern physics and energy, that there are certain ways that all energy and wave patterns should present themselves in our three-dimensional reality. However, what the scientists found in the double slit experiment is that our expectations of the outcome of an experiment influence the outcome of the experiment.
Wow.
The double slit experiment is an amazing study done by brilliant physicists that quite literally proves to you that what Jessi is telling us today is correct, that just by the way we think, it will influence what happens in our reality, in our world. So I just wanted to share that. But yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us and any final takeaways?
I don't know. This has been so beautiful. I can't think of anything else. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my friend. Jessi, before you go today, I know that our guests already know a bit about you and listened to the introduction before we had this interview. But can you tell everybody how they can find you, how they can stay connected with you, and what's the best way to just stay in touch and stay in your world?
Sure. I would love to connect with anyone. I'm on Facebook. It's just my name, Jessi Coletti. I could send you a link, but Coletti's.
And we'll put everything in the show notes too. So to all of our guests listening, know anything Jessi shares will be linked for you. So that way you can very easily find her and connect with her. And I strongly encourage you to, because
my Instagram and Facebook are both the same.
Awesome. Jessi, my friend, my colleague, you are such an incredible woman. To me, the embodiment of so many things that I admire. And it's been such an honor. Thank you for just being so generous. Thank you for coming and sharing your time, your energy, and just your wisdom, some of the most valuable things you have. And I love you. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thanks for listening to today's episode of The Bridge, a transformational health podcast with Dr. Elizabeth Rogers. To learn more about my work and ways you can get support to transform your own health, head to my website, drelizabethrogers.com. Don't forget, Rogers has a D and a G. You can find a link in the show notes too. I hope you can feel the big boost of positive energy I'm sending all around right now. Can't wait to connect with you on the next episode.